Well, everyone, the Super Bowl is set in stone, and all I have to say is go Eagles, fly, God motherfucking damn it, do whatever you have to do to fucking beat the Patriots. Get yourselves a seat at the Super Bowl table along with every other team in the NFC East. Do whatever you have to do within the confines of the rules. Win fair and square, but still, yeah, I'm totally pulling for the Eagles in 2 weeks. To the surprise of probably a few people, given that I'm a Giants fan, but I cannot watch that regime win another goddamn Super Bowl. I just can't. I just can't. No, please, Eagles, I need you to win. But, so this video, the main thing I want to talk about in this video is my review of the latest Godzilla film that was released on Netflix, Godzilla, Planet of Monsters, the first part of a 3-part trilogy of animated films starring Godzilla. So it's the first part of the story, and I definitely want to talk about it, review it, because I've done a lot of Godzilla movie reviews on this channel. I've reviewed every single one, and want to keep that tradition going. But before I get into that, there is a bunch of WWE stuff that I did not talk about in my previous video, and I either got it wrong because the show that was in progress, which was SmackDown Live, contradicted some of the things I said in the video because it changed the direction. It kind of ruined at least one of my predictions. The biggest thing being the United States Championship Tournament Finals, which I thought were being saved for the Rumble. They ended up rushing it to that episode of SmackDown that was in progress while I was filming that video. So imagine my surprise. I film it, I post a thing to YouTube, and then I read the SmackDown results. I'm like, oh shit. Whoops. So, yeah, congratulations to Bobby Roode for becoming the new United States champion. Good on him. He was the best option, I think, of the guys that were left in the tournament. I was like, yeah, it should probably go to Roode. I thought it would go to Mahal, but I think they finally realized it's like, oh, this Jinder Mahal thing isn't working. So let's go with Bobby Roode, which I think is a good call. I still prefer him as a heel over a babyface, but I am fine with this decision. And a bunch of other things that happened. Roman Reigns was implicated in a steroid scandal. He has since come out and denied the allegations that he was associated with this steroid ring that became public from this Rodriguez guy. I forget the dude's full name, but Roman Reigns' name has been linked to this steroid ring. I guess it's just kind of a story in progress, but it'll be very interesting to see what WWE does with Roman Reigns moving forward, how severe they may punish him, given how seriously they take the allegations, and if any more evidence comes out. So that's going to be like a story in progress. We'll see how it goes heading into WrestleMania. For right now, I'm still assuming that Roman's going to win the title over Lesnar at WrestleMania, and that's just what they're going to do. But if this gets any more severe, and if there's any credibility to what... to the accusations thrown at Roman Reigns, who was suspended for a wellness violation back in 2016. So it's not like, he's been caught before, but who knows? We'll see. But this could affect their Mania plans if this turns out to be more severe than it is. But again, that's one of those like story and development things we shall see. Jey Uso is running into his own troubles. He got arrested for DWI. In Texas, I believe. That happened I think it happened like a day or 2 days before I did my last video. And I completely forgot to talk about it for some reason. It didn't, when I made my predictions on the tag title match at the Royal Rumble, I thought, it completely slipped my mind. It's like, well, I mean, the Usos might end up dropping the belts then if, because WWE does kind of have a history. If you get caught, you do get punished. Rob Van Dam is probably one of the best examples, but again, it'll be very interesting to see how the Royal Rumble match plays out now, given they're supposed to defend the tag titles there, and you may end up seeing new tag team champions at the Royal Rumble. Again, completely going against what I predicted in that video. So again, we'll just have to wait and see. And also, a bit of a sad thing, it appears that Paige's wrestling career is over, given an incident that happened at a house show match against Sasha Banks. I believe it was a tag match. I've seen the video. Sasha kicked Paige a little too hard in the back and like at the base where the shoulders meet the neck. And early prognosis is that Paige's wrestling career appears to be over. And it's like, man, that really sucks because Paige has had she strikes me as kind of an unstable person based on some of the things I've seen and some of the things I've heard. She has had a bit of a rough year given how public her relationship issues with Alberto El Patron have become. The nude video and picture leaks from her phone. And now this is happening. She loses her wrestling career. It's like, man, she's just, she's kind of an unstable person that's having a bunch of really shitty things happen to her. And that's not a formula for a healthy life. And I hope that she's got a strong support system around her that's able to help get her through this. But this is really bad, and I do feel sorry for her. This is something that she was clearly passionate about. She clearly cared about wrestling. And now it appears that she's not going to be able to do it. And right before she was going to get a spot in the Royal Rumble match. Excuse me. They always come in threes. But yeah, she was almost assuredly going to have a spot in the female Royal Rumble match. And now that's, appears to be taken away from her too. So, very unfortunate. I feel bad for her, and hopefully she's able to get her life together and move forward and create something positive out of this. But again, we shall see. But yeah, those are just some of the random WWE things I didn't talk about in my previous video, and I just wanted to bring up here and give my own thoughts on it. And a lot of it is, we'll just have to wait and see. That's kind of where a lot of that stands right now. But I am going to have more wrestling videos lined up. The government shutdown affects me in that I still have to work, but I have to telework. I can't go to the actual building. So not having to commute there frees up a little bit more time. Gives me a little bit more time to work on the videos. I do have a date tomorrow, so it won't be tomorrow where I start knocking out videos. But I do want to knock out my first my Edge versus Matt Hardy video. What went wrong? Want to knock that out. I do want to start knocking out the WrestleMania most valuable players, least valuable players, and my next top 10. So I'm going to try and get all that done next week. In addition to doing videos about the Royal Rumble and everything else that's happening next weekend. So, Raw 25, I definitely want to cover that. So, it should be a busy week for making videos, but I'll get it done. I'll find a way to get it done. Government shutdown is definitely going to help me do that. But assuming, I don't know how long it's going to last. It might be, I heard talk in the news that it might be over before Monday, before work starts on Monday. So who knows? But whatever. I'm going to try and get all those videos out to you this week. I'm going to do my damnedest. Make sure. If I have to stay up late and do it all, I will. But yeah, so there's going to be a lot of wrestling-related videos coming out in the next few days. So be on the lookout for those. But for right now, we're going to shift into Kaiju talk. It's time to talk Godzilla, Planet of Monsters, Netflix movie. And I guess I want to start off by saying I want to thank Netflix for setting this up for us because typically we have to wait a while before a Godzilla movie comes over from Japan and is made available for American audiences. It's one of those things. Being a Godzilla fan, an American Godzilla fan, sucked for a really long time because you just kind of had to take whatever you were given. You didn't have the Japanese originals available to you in most cases. You just kind of had to take what you were given. If the dubbing sucked, and you just had to live with it. And there were a bunch of concessions that Godzilla fans had to make growing up, especially someone like me. In the 90s, didn't have access to a bunch of things. I was just a young kid, so I just had to take whatever I was given. I couldn't, get on the bootleg tapes or whatever. And do any Godzilla tape trading, which apparently was a thing. I couldn't do that because I was just a kid and I didn't have access to anything. So, again, it was just one of those things you just have to kind of take what you were given. The biggest injustice that we had to suffer through was the 90s films. weren't brought stateside. Imagine my surprise. I get on AOL for the very first time. One of the first things I look up is Godzilla, and I see, oh my god, there's 5 Godzilla movies I've never seen. What the hell is that crap? And it was just a bunch of things like that. It's just American fans just kind of had to deal with it, and if it took forever for us to get it, then it just took forever, and we just had to deal with it. Godzilla 2000 didn't take that long to come out, but that was still 8 or 9 months, I think, it took for us to get that. And the Millennium Films got video releases at infrequent intervals. It seemed to just be, again, it was just kind of Sony releasing them. They'll get here when they get here. It didn't take as long as the Heisei films, but it's still, you kind of had to take what you were given in those cases. And Shin Godzilla, fortunately, one of the quickest turnarounds, that took about 4 months, I think. 4 or 5 months to have that brought for a special theatrical release in the States. And I was like, okay, cool. That was great. I appreciate that. What Netflix was able to do here was take a movie that was released in Japanese theaters in November and get it to us by January. That is pretty awesome. That is about as close to immediate as you can possibly be. And I applaud them for that, and I thank them for that. So, the treatment of American Godzilla fans, we're getting to a point where we get both the Japanese version and the American versions. I think King Kong vs. Godzilla is the only one where the Japanese version hasn't been released in the States. Other than that, you can pretty much get any version of the film that you want, which is good. The releases from Japan to America are happening much faster with Shin Godzilla and now this new one, which, again, I can't fathom any Godzilla fan complaining about the turnover. It's like 2 months is about as fast as you can possibly be. And I salute Netflix for that, and I greatly appreciate it. And it's super cool that they were able to get it to us this quickly. And so that was a nice treat, and again, I'm very thankful for it. What did I think of the movie itself? It's the first ever animated Godzilla film. Not the first animated Godzilla, because of course there was the Hanna-Barbera show and the 90s show based off the TriStar film, both of which I have an appreciation for. The Hanna-Barbera show has kind of a dubious reputation, and I get why, but I started watching that show when I was 4 and 5 years old, and for 4 or 5-year-old me, it fit the bill exactly what I wanted out of a Godzilla cartoon, except for Godzuki. Godzuki sucked. And even back then, I thought Godzuki sucked. And, yeah, he kind of makes Scrappy-Doo look fantastic and entertaining. That's my opinion of Godzuki. And there were various Japanese attempts at an animated Godzilla. There's the Godzilla Island show, which if you've never heard of that, I don't even know how to begin describing that. It's technically not animated, but I'm calling it animated because Godzilla in the show and all the other monsters are presented as action. They literally just took the Bandai action figures and treat them like puppets. And that's how Godzilla is presented in the show. And I'm like, this looks really bad, but it's kind of hilarious. I've watched a couple episodes of it. They're 3-minute shorts, and there's 256 of them, so I don't know if I'll ever get around to watching all of them, but they're kind of hilarious. And I'm like, okay, that's a thing. I also saw, somebody sent me this a few months ago, I also saw some animated Godzilla educational videos that were released in Japan, where Godzilla and Mothra and various other kaiju are presented as these cute little kid cartoon characters, and they teach kids how to add and subtract. And I'm like, where the hell was... Again, why didn't American fans get this? I would totally have been down for Godzilla teaching me, like, basic math at 4 years old. I would have loved that. And they gave him a little pink girlfriend. And I'm like, even better. Godzilla gets a pink girlfriend. Because why not? Like, for a preschooler, like, wanting Godzilla material, I would have ate that shit up like nobody's business. And, so, basically my point is, there have been animated Godzillas before this one, but never a feature-length film, not one that counts as an official part of the Godzilla film franchise. So, this is a big step for him. big new direction for the franchise. It's the 30th Godzilla film produced in Japan. So another big milestone there. It's the 32nd overall if you count the 2 American versions. But it's the 30th Godzilla film produced by Toho in Japan. And so kind of a bold thing here. And again, very different. And I thought the premise behind the movie was very interesting. Where basically, and what I've kind of been looking for in Godzilla movies is like, all right, can you do something different? Because I've read some comics, some of the IDW published comics, like Rulers of Earth, and Godzilla in Hell, which is probably the most unique thing ever, where it's basically just Godzilla in Hell, and it's a visual spectacle. And you get things like Godzilla Cataclysm, which is a Godzilla set in a post-apocalyptic world where the monsters have basically destroyed the world, and whatever's left of humanity are left living in squalor, just dealing with these gods that have basically destroyed their homes. And that's an interesting concept, and that's kind of what I'm looking for in Godzilla. It's like, can you come up with something like radically different from what we've seen before? And I think in the world of animation, it's just ripe for something like that, because you can pretty much do whatever you want. And here, this movie is about mankind fleeing Earth because of Godzilla's destructive power and going on a spaceship and looking for a new home. And then when they realize that the planet they had initially selected isn't inhabitable, they decide to return back to Earth and take back their homeland from Godzilla. And through some scientific techno-babbly Star Trek shit, they get back to Earth, and even though it's only been 20 years for them on board the ship, it's been 20,000 years on Earth. So, you have humans on the ship that... You have a younger generation that has absolutely no memory of Godzilla or even of Earth that are coming to Earth for the first time. And you have the older types that remember Godzilla and remember what Earth was like when Godzilla initially appeared. So, the main character in particular, Haru, which I believe is a reference to Haru Nakajima, who was the original Godzilla suit actor, who passed away last year. So rest in peace, and thank you to Haru Nakajima for all the great memories that he gave us, because in my mind, he is the best Godzilla. He's the best one to ever put on the suit. He was the original suit actor and stayed the Godzilla suit actor all the way to Godzilla vs. Gigan. And did various other monsters as well, from Rodan to Varan to War of the Gargantuas. I think his best performance is in War of the Gargantuas. He was the Green Gargantua. He was terrific in it. So yeah, thank you to Haru Nakajima for everything that he gave us kaiju fans everywhere, because he was really he set the standard for that type of monster suit acting. And wanted to make sure I said some kind words to him. But I believe the main character was named Haru as a tribute to him. Which is nice. So Haru is like the Captain Ahab type that he's like, I want Godzilla dead on a platter, I want to take my fucking world back. And I'm like, yeah, I'm down for that. But now it's like you're living in a situation where typically Godzilla movies are about humankind reacting to Godzilla and being on the defensive. Here it's kind of a role reversal. It's like, all right, Godzilla rules the Earth now, and now humankind is coming back and like, all right, hey, motherfucker, remember us? We're coming to take your world back now. We're going to put you in your place. And so the role reversal is nice, and all the scientific, sci-fi elements are nice, and the techno-babble stuff is great. So it feels completely different from any other Godzilla movie that's been done before. So I love the premise. I love the idea of a world ruled by monsters. And I thought there were limitless possibilities for what they could do with it. Overall, I thought the film itself was fine. It wasn't great. It didn't blow my socks off. It was fine. I think the biggest problem with the film is that it is clearly part one. It is clearly the first part of a trilogy. And to me, that's a weakness, because if I have to wait for parts 2 and 3 for this one to work, that's kind of a weakness. I feel like every individual film should work on its own. Kind of like the first Matrix movie. The first Matrix movie, whether it got sequels or not, it works completely fine on its own. The original Star Wars trilogy did it so right. A New Hope works completely fine on its own, whether it gets sequels or not. Empire Strikes Back, even with the cliffhanger, works great as a standalone film. Return of the Jedi works great as a standalone film. The original Star Wars, they're just perfect. They get everything right. But I think I'm seeing more and more movies are kind of relying on, oh, we got to set things up for the next film. We got to set everything up for the next film. Once you watch the next film, then this one will make sense. It's like, yeah, but I feel like the first one should make sense. I feel like it should be able to stand on its own. And this one kind of doesn't. There's a lot of elements that are left unresolved. Haru is kind of butting heads with the ruling class on board the giant ship that's housing humanity. And he believes that there was a conspiracy to blow up the ship of volunteers that were going to investigate the planet that they wanted to inhabit initially. He believes that they blew the ship up on purpose because they wanted to thin the herd and save resources, and that's why it was basically all senior citizens, including Haru's grandfather, on board that ship. So he's like butting heads with them. On that, was there a conspiracy there? Were they butting head? Did Haru have a legitimate reason to be wary of them, and were they deliberately killing people off to save resources? Not resolved. It's not resolved in this film, so we don't know. One thing about the prologue that I thought was interesting, where it's like, and monsters started attacking. Like, okay, this makes sense. Yes, monsters attack, and they got a bunch of cameos in there. Not big names. I think the biggest name that was in there was Hedora, but they put Dagarla in there from, Dagarla was in the second Rebirth of Mothra film. They put Dogora, the space jellyfish, in there, who had his own movie way back in the 60s and never appeared in, as far as I know, never appeared in anything else ever again. So I was like, wow, they really went obscure. Orga was in there, making his second appearance since Godzilla 2000. So, yeah, they got a few cameos in there, but no, like, major stars in there initially. But I'll go back to the monsters in a little bit. But in the prologue, they explained that aliens came out to help humanity. And I was like, wait, what the fuck? Aliens? Aliens? Where did aliens come from? How do they fit into this? And it turns out these alien races are helping humanity in exchange for let us colonize and we'll help you deal with the monsters. And it's two races of aliens, one that helped them build the tech, and we're helping them develop Mechagodzilla. But Mechagodzilla didn't work. And again, that's something that's being set up for the second film. It's been confirmed that Mechagodzilla is going to appear in the second movie. So we get all this hype for Mechagodzilla, doesn't show up in this film. And the alien races themselves, like their whole partnership with humanity, not explained all that well. And actually, probably the best side character was I forget his name, Metphesi. It's like Metphius or something like that. And he's like this alien priest who's also like a high-ranking official on board the ship. And he seems to be encouraging Haru to follow his destiny and fight Godzilla. And it's like, this is what you need to do. But there's also seems to be like this, he's operating on his own agenda thing. But again, that's not left fully explored. So there's a bunch of hanging threads here that are being saved for movies 2 and 3. I just wish that this movie could stand on its own a little bit more. Because I feel like I just have a ton of questions that I'm waiting to have answered. Rather than this movie feeling like a complete experience. And that was one thing I respected about the Legendary Pictures film, in a world where, you know, Marvel movies, the shared universe thing, and everybody's trying to mimic that. The Legendary Pictures film, which ultimately did springboard into a shared universe thing with Kong and everything else, that initial movie, they're like, no, Gareth Edwards was adamant about it. It's like, I want this to stand on its own. I want it to be a standalone film. That can leave the door open for sequels. We can leave the door open for sequels, but I want this movie to stand on its own. And that was something I respected. But anyway, you get all these hanging story threads. So this movie doesn't work too well as a standalone film. And it's going to be one of those things when all 3 movies come out. And the next movie's coming out in May in Japan. So I expect Part 3 to be out later in 2018 as well. and hopefully Netflix releases them pretty quick afterwards. It'll only work when I watch all three together, which to me is kind of like, I'd rather be able to enjoy. I don't mind having sequels. I like a tight continuity. It's one of the things I admired about the Heisei series was that it did have a tight continuity. But each film worked on its own and was a self-contained story, and that's not really what we get here. Although I think part of the explanation for it is that this was originally conceived as an animated series and got turned into a trilogy of films following the success of Shin Godzilla. So there's an explanation for it. Not necessarily an excuse, but it's an explanation. And so that kind of bugged me about the film. The character designs are a bit bland. Haru kind of stands out, and again, he's the main character, but everybody else are very bland designs. And like I said, you have two races of aliens, and they look very humanoid. I know that's a thing in the Godzilla series, but the Godzilla series is also a bunch of B-movies with lowered budgets, and that's why the aliens look human. I feel like if Ishiro Honda was directing Godzilla vs. Monster Zero with a much higher budget, he probably would have made them look more alien, like the Planet X aliens. He probably would have made them look more alien, a lot less human, but he worked with what he had. Here, it's animation. You can literally design the characters any way you want. Again, I'm going to go back to the IDW comics here in Rulers of Earth. They were invading aliens in those stories as well. They gave them great designs. I could go over there and pull out my comics, but I don't feel like it. But yeah, they gave the aliens in those stories like really good, distinct designs, and I felt like they probably should have done that here. One of the race of aliens, they have darker skin. I thought they were just like, oh, it's it's another race of Earthlings. It's like, they're like black people or something. It's like, no, those are supposed to be aliens. I'm like, what? And then I looked even closer, and I'm like, okay, they kind of sort of look like Klingons if I squint. They just didn't try too hard with those designs. And Metvius, or whatever his name is, his race, they look Aryan, basically. Is the best way. They have like an ethereal, like elven look to them almost, but they don't look alien. They look very, very human. And I felt like that those designs could have been a lot more interesting. And even the Earth human characters, a lot of them look alike too, and I felt like they could have done a lot better with the character designs themselves. So that kind of bothered me a little bit, and I've talked to some people that watched the film. It's like I lost track of who was who because everybody looked alike. I'm like, yeah, those. If you're not paying too close attention, or if you doze off at one point and wake up, I mean, you could be fucking lost, like following these characters. But in any case, so that was a problem as well. And I also felt like the movie didn't take full advantage of its premise. Like I said, this is a movie called Planet of Monsters. This is a premise of a world ruled by monsters. And I talked about the cameos earlier on in the film, and I don't necessarily want them to go... I don't want Toho to go into their menagerie of monsters and just do a fan servicey thing. It's like, oh, there's Rodan, and oh, there's that one, and oh, there's that one. They did set up Mechagodzilla, and I'm actually going to talk about that in a little bit, but I didn't want it to be like a cameo fest where they just brought out all the old monsters. You can use the old monsters. I'm totally fine with that. Biollante would be a great one to use. That's never been brought back. But my point is, there's a movie called Planet of Monsters. Whether you're using old monsters or you want to make a bunch of new monsters, I'm fine either way. I just feel like with this premise, there needs to be, like, monsters everywhere. Like, there needs to be, like... This needs to be a planet of monsters, and there needs to be, like... I need to be seeing monsters everywhere. And the so-called Planet of Monsters looked very empty. There weren't that many monsters at all. The only ones there were Godzilla, which I'll get into spoilers later, but there was Godzilla, and there were these Godzilla-like creatures called the Servum. And again, hanging story threads, it's not clear if these Servum, which are lizard-like bird creatures, they're apparently offshoots of Godzilla's DNA. The Earth, again, is kind of, I don't want to say terraformed, but it's kind of like adapted to Godzilla as kind of like the prime source of this ecosystem. So you get a bunch of like plants and trees and monsters and everything that are kind of derived from his DNA. And the Servum are these bird-like creatures that attack the military forces at one point in the film and assist Godzilla during the climactic fight. So again, it's not clear. Is Godzilla controlling them? Are they parasites of Godzilla? What are these things? I don't know. Are they Godzilla's sperm? I don't know. Like, how does Godzilla reproduce? I have no idea. Like, I kind of don't want to know what the reproductive cycle of Godzilla looks like. But basically, my point is, all you get basically is Godzilla and the Servum, who don't have a whole lot of screen time. So the Planet of Monsters concept isn't really capitalized on, which was kind of a disappointment. And so yeah, this film had some problems, and I wonder if this would have worked better as an animated series instead of 3 movies. I mean, I don't know. But in any case, those are my problems with the film. And like I said, I think it's a solid film overall. I'm going to get into the positives, but it does have those big problems with it. And I think there's plenty of room for improvement in parts 2 and 3. Definitely. And I think they will improve given some of the things that they built up. Now, the rest of the film, I enjoyed it. I liked it. Like I said, I wasn't a fan of the character designs, but I think the animation itself was fine. It was 3D CGI animation, which I know a lot of people didn't like. I think some people were hoping for a more traditional 2D anime style, but for what we got, I think Polygon Pictures, who worked on this film, created some beautiful, breathtaking environments, like when they're in space on board the ship, and when they see Godzilla for the first time. Godzilla looks amazing, and one of the things I was worried about in an animated film, I was worried that Godzilla's sense of scale, scope, and destruction would be lost. And they would take the free range of animation, have Godzilla like jump all over the place and do backflips and spin kicks and kind of like what Godzilla Final Wars did, but it's like, no, Godzilla should be slow and majestic almost and powerful, and he gets that through his size and his slow movement and everything like that. They did that in this movie, and Godzilla looks amazing, and I loved the design of Godzilla, and the power of Godzilla is on full display, and there's some great conversations about Godzilla too, where they talk about how he's a genetic anomaly and how he's potentially immortal and various other things. And so Godzilla looked great, the environments look great, the animation's very good, and I liked all of that. If the characters had looked better, I would be praising all the visuals in this film. What else did I like? Like I said, I liked Haru a lot. I liked him as the main character. Most of the characters were very superfluous, and that was another kind of problem with the film. The only characters I really, really liked were Haru, who's the main character. I'm like, oh, Captain Ahab type. I like this. I like this guy. He's very determined. I like him. And thank God he's the main character, because any of these other guys would be boring. The only other character I really cared about was the alien priest guy, Mephis. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I liked him, and I want to see what they do with him in parts 2 and 3, because I don't entirely trust him. But I did like Haru as a character, and I want to see how his story develops in parts 2 and 3. And another thing I really liked, I liked the sci-fi elements. I liked the technobabble stuff. I don't know, that type of stuff is fun for me. I'm not the biggest diehard Star Trek fan on the planet, as I've said before. Actually, this year, one of the things that I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and marathon all of Star Trek, at least up to Deep Space Nine, because I was told, like, Patrick, you got to watch Deep Space Nine. It's really good. I'm like, okay. So I'll watch everything up to Deep Space Nine and try and at least get up to that level of Star Trek. I'm told that I can skip Voyager and Enterprise. I don't have to watch those, but, you know. Maybe if I like the other shows enough, maybe I'll get it. I'll flip on Voyager and Enterprise as well. And Discovery, I guess, which is still in its first season. But anyway, I liked all the scientific, like, gobbledygook type of stuff. It's like, oh, yeah, they were on the ship for 20 years, but 20,000 years have passed on Earth. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And it's like, yeah, the thing, the time warp thing caused an anomaly, a chronological anomaly or some shit. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll go with that. I like that stuff. And, building off how good the animation was, I thought the climactic battle with Godzilla, The climactic battle was awesome and very well done. I like it, and I talked about this in my Godzilla movie reviews. I like it when the military has a strategy against Godzilla, and there's like a rhyme or reason to the things that they do. And they did that here, where Haru had done a lot of study on Godzilla because Metphius was ciphering data about Godzilla and giving it to him illegally, and Haru was able to develop the strategy to attack and defeat Godzilla. And in the climactic battle, they implement that plan, basically. And it revolves around destroying the dorsal fin, which is the source of this EMP body shock that Godzilla is able to do. That was a power of his that was established in the 90s. So, again, it's using pre-established lore and using it as a way to kind of develop a strategy against Godzilla, and the military enacted that strategy, and I liked it, and everything visually was very well done. It was a very exciting sequence. I really liked the climactic fight in this, and I think back to like some of my more favorite Godzilla versus the military battles, like a lot of the ones in Godzilla versus Mothra or Godzilla versus the Thing from 1964, and Godzilla versus Biollante in 1989, where it's like, oh, okay, we've got the Super X2 with the fire mirror, and it shoots his atomic beam back at him, and oh, we've got this anti-nuclear bacteria, we have to get it into his mouth. Oh, wait, he's a cold-blooded creature. We need to raise his body temperature. All right, we got to lure him into this artificial lightning field that'll raise his body temperature and help the anti-nuclear bacteria take effect and all this other stuff. So I like it when there's a clear-cut strategy to what the military does, and it's not just send the tanks and send the planes. Actually, my favorite shitty one is in Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, where the opening of the movie starts with them sending like a squad of guys with bazookas to attack Godzilla. It's like, okay, so you guys just aren't even trying anymore. I mean, fuck. It's like, fuck it. We got to make it look like we're doing something, but we don't want to spend too much tax dollars on tanks and planes that are going to get blown up, so we'll just send some guys with bazookas. It's fine. And yeah, no, that was pathetic. But anyway, I thought the climactic battle was great. I really liked it. And the ending and cliffhanger for this movie. Actually, let me backtrack a bit. It was boasted before this movie was released that this movie will have the largest Godzilla ever put to film. Something that the Legendary Pictures film did when they created their Godzilla. They created the largest Godzilla ever, slightly over 100 meters. And then when Shin Godzilla came out, they're like, no, ours is the biggest ever. It's like this Godzilla dick measuring contest. It's like, no, I have the biggest Godzilla. No, I have the biggest Godzilla. And for Godzilla Monster Planet, I saw a size chart comparing the different sizes of all the Godzillas over the years. And the largest Godzilla, which was Shin Godzilla, up to this point, has been, I believe, around 110 meters, maybe a little taller than that. The one in Godzilla Monster Planet is over 300 fucking meters tall. That is insanely huge. I was like, wow, okay, I can't wait to see what that looks like in the film. And for the climactic battle, I was looking at this Godzilla and I'm like, that doesn't look like he'd be 300 meters. He looks like he'd be about the same size as any standard Godzilla in the movie. I don't know what they were talking about 300 meters. It turns out that the Godzilla that the military fought and defeated in this film, implementing Haru's plan, was not the original Godzilla that attacked them 20,000 years ago. And that Godzilla was revealed at the end of the film, and holy shit, when that thing showed up, that is like, okay, that is the biggest holy shit ending to any Godzilla movie ever. I'm not going to say it's the biggest holy shit moment in the history of the franchise, but for the ending of the film, for a franchise that includes an ending where Godzilla's beating heart is left beating at the bottom of the ocean, that reveal of the 300-meter tall Godzilla Prime, which is what I'm going to call him, was the biggest holy shit ending to any Godzilla movie ever. And I was like, my jaw dropped when I saw it. I was like, oh. Because when they killed the first Godzilla, I was like, aren't we getting we're getting 3 more. I mean, we're getting a trilogy here. So what happened? And when I saw that fucking huge Godzilla come out, I was like, oh my sweet lord. Oh. And even Haru, who up to this point was like, fuck you, we have to fight Godzilla. We have to fight Godzilla. We have to fight him. And when the Servum attacked and the commanders in charge were like, dude, we got to get the fuck off this planet. We can't. It's like, no, we have to fight Godzilla and take our home back. When they were like, we don't really want to go down there. We'll just set up a colony on the moon and just kind of sneak on Earth and take supplies back and forth. No, we have to fight that motherfucker. Even Haru, when he saw that Godzilla, was like, guys, we got to get the fuck out of here. Let's go. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what you do. And that's like, okay, whatever strategy I had did not account for anything this big. Oh my god. And Godzilla was just destroying shit left and right. And really very, very well done cliffhanger ending to the story. As the military forces that came back to Earth are left wondering, what the hell are we going to do now? And really a great ending, and really made me want to see the second movie. It's a shame that this movie had so many problems with it where it doesn't work as well as a standalone, because now I'm just thinking, it's like, man, that second movie is going to be really good. It's going to be really... This will be the one where shit, like, kicks into gear. And, there's a lot of really good stuff in this film. I thought the opening prologue was really good. I thought a lot of the stuff on the ship was interesting to me. I can see a lot of people saying that stuff is slow, but I found it interesting. So I like that stuff, and the battle with Godzilla at the end was terrific. The closing scene was amazing, and there's a lot of build-up going on for the second movie. And I wonder... Mechagodzilla is definitely showing up in the second movie. That's pretty much been confirmed. And they do a lot of foreshadowing for Mechagodzilla, so I can't wait to see what this new Mechagodzilla looks like. And it's kind of like a cross between the 70s and the 90s, where the aliens helped develop the tech for the Mechagodzilla, but it's done as kind of like this government coalition trying to build a weapon to fight Godzilla. So it's kind of got like, they took his 2 origins and kind of spliced them together into one. And I can't wait to see what they ultimately do with Mechagodzilla. So they made it sound like, I saw the title for the second movie, that he's going to be like Metroplex from Transformers, where he's as big as a city. We'll see. He's the mechanized city that goes into battle or something. So we'll see how that goes. Other things being set up. The alien priest gave this whole speech about Godzilla and how civilization always gets too big to where it creates its own destroyer, which in this case is Godzilla. And he said something to the effect of, I've seen it happen many times, which to me, again, this is just me being a nerd, just kind of looking into stuff. I heard that line, and I was like, is that a teaser for King Ghidorah? Is King Ghidorah going to show up in this? If King Ghidorah doesn't show up, I won't be disappointed, but I felt like that was kind of a nugget to kind of foreshadow King Ghidorah. I don't know. I could be wrong. It's like, oh, you've seen this happen before. From what and where and how? And it's like, did King Ghidorah, like, the kaiju that destroyed Mars, or Venus, depending on which version you watched, in the original series, is he going to be making an appearance in animated form? I'd be down for that. And in a post-credit scene for this movie, you see an injured Haru being cared for by a native Earthling. So there are still humans on Earth. And that made me wonder, okay, how are these Earthlings surviving? And this girl that's tending to him looks like she has like war paint on. And I'm wondering, okay, is she part of like a native society of Mothra worshippers? Is that a thing that's going on there? Is that how they're going to work Mothra in, where there's like this religious tie of whoever's left on Earth, like the small pockets of humanity have adopted some of the monsters as their gods? And is this going to be how they work Mothra in? We'll see. The third movie, I think, is going to be potentially crazy. If they're doing Mechagodzilla in the second movie, this could get nuts. This could be a very, very wild duo of animated films here. So again, the first movie feels like it's largely just set up with a few like really good things in there to kind of whet my appetite, but I wish it worked better as a standalone film. But overall, I did enjoy the film, and thank you again to Netflix for bringing it to us as quickly as they did. It was an enjoyable experience. I had fun watching it. Not one of the better Godzilla movies, I would say. It's not one of the worst either. I would say it's somewhere in the middle, but again, we'll see where parts 2 and 3 come into play before I give a final verdict on how I'll view these films moving forward. But thanks again to Netflix for making this happen. I am a happy Godzilla fan. I'm always happy to get new Godzilla material, and I did enjoy this, but we got a few more months until part 2 is released in Japan, and I hope that sometime in the summer we get part 2 released on Netflix, because I want to see where this goes, because after seeing that fucking huge Godzilla show up at the end, I'm like, alright, I want to see where this goes, because I think this could get really, really awesome really, really fast. So, if you're a Godzilla fan, I do recommend checking the film out, and if you have Netflix, it's right there at your fingertips, so go check it out. So, that is the end of this review. That's all I have for you here. Y'all enjoy your week. Like I said, I'm going to have a bunch more videos lined up for you, so keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully I'm able to get those done, but until next time, later everybody.